Baroh. I'm here with Randy Gallegos, and we are going to be talking about his show called Level Up, which opens Saturday, September 12th, and runs through October 5th in 2015. You may have known Randy's work in games such as there's Magic the Gathering. You worked on a few other games. You worked on some video games as well.
Yeah, some mobile games primarily, but most of it, like Dungeons and Dragons, would be another big place where people would see it.
Yeah, and he also works traditionally in oils and acrylics, and I've actually known you. I've known your work for almost 20 years now, and your illustration career has spanned a good 20 years.
Yeah, very much so. We met around 20 years ago, actually.
Yes.
Around that time.
I have a couple questions for you that have been asked of me about your show, which not only shows figurative work, which you have been doing and you're well known for the last 20 years, and then the series that you've been working on, the Hearts for Hardware series, which you started this last year as a personal project and has really exploded for you. So the question is, where did this come from?
Not only subject matters, but one, it's still life genre and versus the figurative and illustration as well. One of the things that is interesting about this show and that I found really exciting about putting it together was that it drew from a lot of the pop cultural and video game type things that I grew up with, and that actually inspired me to become an artist at all. And as I grew up playing video games, Star Wars was also figured very heavily into that. These are the things that really propelled my creativity and made me want to become an artist, and as an artist to become one who did a lot of imaginative stuff. So a lot of the illustration and the figurative work is born out of the inspiration that those things brought me. The hardware work itself is it's from the same well, except that now I'm actually turning my attention to those things as objects which inspired me and actually portraying them as well. So I'm actually not only bringing forward the inspiration that I had as a kid, but turning my attention to those things in particular with my art and bringing them forward and putting them side by side with the very kinds of artwork that they inspired.
And particularly why you stick with oils despite the fact that a lot of people have jumped to the digital media, digital painting. Yeah,
I actually began with acrylics. That was my first medium of choice. And the reason that was because this was in high school and I started thinking about being an illustrator, and I was looking at a lot of book cover art at the time, and a lot of the artists I liked, I happened to know was working in acrylic. So not knowing any better, and oils seemed hard, I guess because of all the solvents and all the chemistry involved. And acrylic, it's just water, so it seemed really easy. Actually, it's not. It's really hard as well. But I started out with acrylic for that reason. And then in college, I was exposed to some oil painting in classes and things, but I didn't really have teachers that could teach me how to paint in oils. So I took 2 painting classes precisely, and neither one of them had any technical instruction. So I was just flailing about, and I never got a handle on it, so I just stuck with my acrylics. And I worked in acrylics even professionally at the beginning until about 1998. And all the while, I would occasionally bring the oils out and try to, learn them. And I was trying to make my acrylics look really smooth and really classical, actually. And I was trying to make them look like oils. I didn't really realize I was trying to do that. And I was fighting against the medium because it's not what it's best at. So eventually, once I was able to get a handle on the oils, then I switched over entirely and never looked back.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
The last few years have had me with a lot of these experiments, doing things like the Hearts for Hardware thing, which I had no grand plan. It just kind of fell into it, doing it, as well as, exploring maybe some landscape work as well from time to time. So what I would like to do in 5 years is find myself in a position where I'm doing a little of everything. Still doing my first love, which is fantasy and science fiction illustration. I would love to be able to continue to do that over time, as well as the figurative gallery kind of style work. The Hearts for Hardware in 5 years, I might have wrapped up and gone back and done everything by then, so that might be a finished project in 5 years from now. But continuing to paint primarily, that's the main thing that I want to be able to do.
What kind of advice would you give a young aspiring artist coming into the field as they see you in your field doing what you're doing in the 20 years that you've worked, that you would give them to prepare themselves?
Not to experiment on your projects. Because as I said, I would try, for instance, to paint oils from time to time, and usually, because I was always having commissioned work, it would have, if that was an experiment, it was going to be on a project. And I thought, well, maybe I can do this thing in oils. And so I would try, and there were some horrible failures along the way. And that's obviously really bad for your career when you do that. So don't experiment on your client work. Find time on the side and do that. Give yourself freedom to fail. As an artist, I would say that's a general thing. Find ways that you can produce work that you have no intention of showing anyone, and you're okay if no one ever sees it and if you throw it away. Because whenever you're doing something for a show or you're doing something for a client, you can't fail. You have to, rely upon the things you know you can do well. And that will constrain your ability to be creative and to explore new territories. So as much as you can, on the side, find things that you can experiment, you can play with, and if you know you can fail, and if you do, no one's going to see it and you can bury it.
Thank you so much, Randy. I really appreciate you coming up here. Again, Randy's show is called Level Up, and it will be running from September 12th to October 5th, 2015 at Krab Studio in Seattle, Washington. If you want more information about his work, or you want to just check the work out in our catalog, which will be available September 13 through the 5th of October, you can go to www.krabjabstudio.com and check it out. If you want to see Randy's work in full, you can go to Randy's website. And what's your website?
You can find that at randyg.com.
A great artist is a great man and a great child.